It's our guest, Doggy.
What?
Hello. How's it going?
Oh, it's going great. How are you doing?
I am doing well. I am excited for the end of the year and a nice nap. I think we're right, Jarvis. Which is what I call sleeping at night now. It's just a nap now. I don't know. For some reason, I've been waking up at 1 a.m. very consistently.
No.
I've never been able to wake up at a time consistently in my entire life, and I decided to change that this week, and the time my body chose was 1 a.m. And yeah, I don't know.
Well, what time are you going to bed?
Well, at first I was like, I should go to bed at, 9 p.m. like a relatively normal person, maybe 10 p.m., and my body will stop waking up at 1 a.m. because that's ludicrous. But I kept waking up at exactly 1 a.m., and eventually I started just going to sleep earlier. So I think last night I went to sleep at like 7, and I was like, I'm so tired, I'll probably get 10 hours of sleep or something. Nope, woke up at 1 a.m. Anyway, that's how my life is.
Sure.
So, mmmdoggy is a longtime channel viewer, and I have met your wife because
Yep.
the first time I ever did like a panel at a convention, I stood next to Choco Bars, and Janet is her name. Janet had a line that stretched out of the ropes for where the line was meant to be set. And while she graciously dealt with that and I shared a table with her, I had like a grand total of 10 people show up over the course of the entire hour. And your wife was one of them, and it was lovely to meet her. And yeah, I think I like followed both of you on Twitter when I followed you both on Twitter first, and through Twitter I found like that you are a little hobbyist YouTuber yourself, and found some really fun videos of like cooking at home and stuff that you have.
Yeah, I've done all sorts of weird creative ventures where I'm just kind of like shooting stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. Like I've done like editing, some music. Now I'm into Super Mario World Kaizo, which we'll be talking about today.
Yeah. So it is cool to like meet for the first time, because this is the first time we have actually spoken to each other.
Parasocial relationships are cool.
Yeah, and sometimes they're just relationships. I don't know. One of the things for me with parasocial relationships this year is I've realized that they aren't good. But I'm not really settling for like we just can't have good things anymore. Like maybe we can have good things.
That's fair. You can always be trying new things out, for sure.
Yeah. How would you introduce yourself to the channel? What do you think my people should know about you?
I am a Super Mario World Kaizo creator. I create Mario World Kaizo ROM hacks, which are essentially taking the original game of Super Mario World and reconfiguring it into whatever you want, whether that's something really challenging and hard like Kaizo, or people make standard type hacks that are more similar to traditional Super Mario World, where you get power-ups and all sorts of stuff like that. But yeah, for the past couple of years, that's kind of been my thing. I kind of dove into it. At the beginning of 2022, I made a New Year's resolution that I was going to move away from Mario Maker, which is how I kind of got my start in Mario level design and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? I've been watching so many different ROM hacks on YouTube and stuff like that from more popular creators and stuff like Barbarous King, if anyone knows that name. He's kind of the biggest name in the community. But I was like, you know what? Let's just go ahead and dive into it. And I completed my resolution, a rare resolution completion, and got the hack out by August, I think, that year. And since then, I kind of can't stop.
So I think I've like seen clips. I don't know what Kaizo means.
I want to say it's like it stands for like rearranged in Japanese or something like that. That might be guided, and I might get messed up. But essentially, Kaizo is If you think of like how Celeste is, like you only get one hit essentially, and there's generally a correct path through a level. You have to do a certain number of obstacles in the way that the creator wants you to do it.
Sure.
Versus like standard, which is like, oh, you can go under this guy, you can kill this guy, you can fly over the level, that kind of stuff.
And it's for... I am very out of my depth in this because I was also not a Nintendo kid growing up. I was not allowed consoles because my parents had computers, because my dad was a computer scientist and they were very frugal. And so I never got to play any of the Nintendo games growing up.
Oh, wow.
But, like, what like version of Mario are you actually modding?
So this is the Super Nintendo game, Super Mario World.
Which is
came
like,
out. That's like the launch game, yeah, like 92. But what, like the reason why it has like such a big community and why so many people love playing it is that the movement physics in the game is like it's like so satisfying to pull off. Like there's so many different ways you can control Mario and do different little moves and things like that, and like it's really, really challenging to learn, but like once you kind of get into the groove and like kind of figure out how to control Mario in that space, like it's so satisfying. And it's like insane that so many years ago they got it so incredibly right.
Yeah, super impressive. How do you like edit the levels? Is it like ROM emulated and then there's a tool built by someone after the fact to edit stuff from that?
Yeah, so essentially there's a guy, I think his name was Fusoya. He created a program called Lunar Magic. I'm actually make sure I credit the right person. Yeah, Fusoya. He created a program called Lunar Magic, and essentially you can open up any Super Mario World ROM in it, and it will build out the level and the graphics and everything like essentially like you're playing a PC version of Mario Maker. The difference is like you can do whatever you want. Like Mario Maker, they give you, you know, whatever tools that Nintendo allows you, but in Lunar Magic, you can edit, you know, whatever you want. Sometimes that involves like going into like certain text files or going into like graphics files and doing it, like rearranging code and things like that. I personally don't know anything about the code that's used in it. It's used, I think it's assembly, ASM. People call it.
Yeah, I've heard of assembly.
But yeah, so like a lot of the times what people do is like much smarter people will create their own ASM or you know, graphics or sprites or blocks or whatever, and they'll share it on a website called SMW Central. And from there, yeah, people are super chill and nice about sharing things with the community. You can just go in there and download it as long as you appropriately credit people whenever you use their stuff. And a lot of times people will even make it easier. Like, even though I don't know assembly, you can, they'll have like little instructions like, oh, if you want to increase the speed of the sprite, you know, change the value to this and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's all like surprisingly easy. I was like really intimidated going into it when I first started learning, but it was actually pretty intuitive to learn.
Huh.
Yeah, porting music, T-Bone Shorty in chat said, that's an insane thing. People will... So you'll essentially have to go into a text file and write down what notes you want to be played at certain points and certain measures and certain beats just in a text file. And like people will just do that for... There's so many songs people have ported that you can use in all of your hacks and stuff.
Okay. Can it run Doom?
You know, I'm surprised someone hasn't done something like that, but there have been some absolutely buck wild shit people have made.
What's your pick for like the most wild thing, the best executed thing, and the most like artistic thing? Those are the three I want to hear about first.
Ooh. Alright. Most wild thing. So Barbarous King, he put out the most anticipated hack probably ever called Grand Poo World 3. And he's got sort of a mad scientist that helps him with a lot of stuff. Her name's Dita the Fourth. And she... I could name like 5 different things from the hack, but essentially, what the craziest thing, she made a DDR clone essentially. You get through a really tough level, and then Bowser shows up, and then the DDR arrows appear, and then you have to hit, the up, down, left, rights to the beat. That is like, I've never seen anything like that before in a ROM hack.
So it's like Fortnite. You can play rhythm games in it.
Yeah, exactly. Creative thing. Sheesh. I don't know. There's so many. There's another one. Someone did a whole hack where like the Tetronymos from Tetris are trying to kill you. It's from a hack called Luminescent, made by Borgiman, and the final boss is you're essentially fighting the Tetris pieces, and they start falling on you, and you have to use them to platform up the level and try and like dodge out of the way, and then eventually get to the top, and you like shove these like weird blocks into the like where the Tetris pieces are coming out to block them from stopping them to kill you. It was like super cool looking.
Sweet.
I have links to any of this stuff, by the way, if you want it.
Yeah. Feel free to drop links in chat. So you like make levels for it? Were you drawn to playing it as well? I have watched some stuff on like the history of the Super Mario speedrun, and so I've learned all about the ludicrous micro optimizations you can do in the movement for the character. So I knew what you were talking about with that. Like jumping backwards is faster than running forwards or whatever. In some places,
sure.
I don't know. Weird stuff with acceleration.
Yeah, I don't play. That's the weird thing is I don't play very much SMW as much as I watch or make, and part of that is just because I don't have a ton of time. I got a full-time job and wife and some very cute dogs that I like to hang out with, and also there's like other games I like to play and stuff like that, and also like to make. So it's like if I've got like a couple hours to relax at night, spending like an hour on like a single level banging my head trying to beat it often isn't at the top of my priority list.
Sure.
I'm just like pretty bad at it.
Yeah, it seems really hard.
Yeah, there's some insane players out there that can just like read levels, like sight read, like they're playing like a Rock Band level or something like that. Like I don't know how people get so good at it. It's crazy.
Is there a competitive scene?
Generally, a lot of ROM hacks will have their own speedrunning scene, and so for example, right now everyone's speedrunning Grand Prix World 3 because that's the hot newness. I think someone actually just posted a world record for my ROM hack that I put out a few months back.
Cool.
That's like a surreal thing to be like, oh wow, someone's like actually speedrunning something I made.
Yeah. Have you gotten like many, I don't know, like downloads, I guess, or what happened?
Let me see. Last time I checked, it was like over 500 or something.
Nice.
So I've made 2 ROM hacks now. Yeah, I've got 637, and the first one is 592. So yeah,
it's a lot of people.
Yeah. It's a weird. It's a weird feeling watching someone play a game you've made, especially when like I don't know. I'm not that well known in the community, so I don't have like a ton of people. Like I feel bad asking people like, "Hey, can you play test my hack?" Like we barely know each other, but like, can you do this thing that requires 4 hours of your time?
It's a 4-hour playthrough.
Well, it depends on one, how good you are, and 2, how many levels are in that hack. Like my first one was 14 levels, and my second one was 10 levels, but it was much easier. T-Bone Shorty's asking in the chat, I made Separate Ways and Super Insecure World. But yeah, like seeing someone playing a level and then like they're not getting what they need to do to get past this section, and I'm just like, no, clearly you just have to do what I had in my head that I play tested for 10 hours making this level.
Do you feel like you're like goal as you're designing it is for it to be natural to like sight read basically for someone?
Yeah, everyone's kind of got different level design philosophies of how to make a good level and stuff like that. Generally, I've tried to have something that you can beat on your first go around, mainly because it feels incredible if you can like beat a large portion of a level like on your first try. Like that just feels super satisfying. Obviously, that is like it's pretty rare to like successfully achieve that, and also have it be like challenging and like cool and interesting. Sometimes I get a little lost in the sauce with like a setup where I'm hammering away on it for like an hour trying to force a square peg into a round hole, and like eventually I get it there, but then it kind of looks like a mess and it's like confusing or like weird. Playtesting really comes into effect and is really nice. So when it's how do you know what makes a good level if you don't play it very much? Well, I mean, I've played enough. Like I played a shit ton of Mario Maker as well, but also like I've seen so much Kaizo, and I've made so much at this point. Like back in the Mario Maker days, like when I was making absolute garbage stuff, you know, when you put your level in chat for a streamer to play, and you can immediately see feedback right there, and you're like, oh wow, okay, yeah. Like you're just slowly building up, you know, tools in your head of like things to not do, things to do. You know, basic stuff like, you know, don't have blind jumps, don't have things that you can't read immediately, stuff like that.
Have you always been creative? Like, as a kid, were you... I don't know. How was I creative as a kid? I didn't have YouTube yet. What did I even do?
See, that's the interesting thing is like I was not creative at all either. I hated art classes, I hated music classes, all that sort of stuff. I was always very much into math and science and things like that, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm a very logical person, blah blah blah. And like I would always think to myself, like when you'd see someone, you know, make a painting or just able to like create a song out of nothing or whatever, it's like how do people's brains do that? Like I don't understand how someone can just do that, like, and they like they enjoy it, like it's just like an easy muscle for them to stretch. Yeah. And then whenever Mario Maker came out back in the day, I was like, oh, I get it. Like this is my creative outlet. Like figuring out the right way to make something like it's super satisfying. And now it's like this itch I have to scratch now. Like every once in a while, I'll be like, I'll finish up like a level or something like that, and like a week will go by, and I'll play other games and stuff like that, and then like I can feel that itch coming back. It's like I need to make something. Got ideas in my head.
It's your dark passenger. Oh no. Oh no.
Dark passenger.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Did you watch the new Dexter?
No, I don't even think I didn't finish the original series. So I think I stopped around 5.
Oh, fair enough. Well, that means you only saw the good stuff in the original series. You should still like it. What do you think about AI as a creativity tool? I'll go there. Because you just talked about how you spent a long time in your life feeling like you were not creative and not being drawn to making artistic, fun things, and then boom, like basically a new medium was presented to you, and you're like, oh, I can create things. Do you...
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a very tricky, weird topic to talk about right now because it feels like the worst people are talking about it instead of the right people. My brother, he's a producer for A&E, and he's like, he said like his job is miserable right now because all the executives are just shoving AI down his throat and just like, yeah, I'm just like, oh my god. I think I've seen a lot of different like opinions and videos and things like that, because like there's one aspect where if something allows you to do something faster, but not necessarily like at the expense of another person's job, because like there's like been jobs in the past that have been overwritten by like new technology and stuff like that, right? And so like eventually like like that kind of works, but also it seems really hard for AI to necessarily not do that, but also like it doesn't seem like it's powerful enough to completely replace jobs. I don't know.
I wonder
That's
how many
also
people there are in the world who are waiting to create something until they are presented the right tool. And I wonder how you get them the right tool. You know what it was for me, I think, was photography. Is I was always pretty logical as a kid, but I was terrible at visual art. Like I could not get myself to enjoy improving at like drawing shapes and figures and stuff like that. And so I was just always terrible at drawing them. And sure, if I'd practiced, I could have gotten better, but it wasn't fun. But I'm such a creative, artistic person. Like I love the art that I have in my house. I love color. I love the way that things fit together, and I love storytelling. And storytelling was my outlet, I guess, as a kid. And then when I got into like college and started playing poker, I had a bit of money, and I bought myself a DSLR because that's what guys like me were doing. I think there was like a DSLR cultural movement for a while
100%.
among young men uh in the aughts. And
Oh yeah, that was my brother.
Loved it. Yeah. I loved that I could point it at something and click the button and the thing was reproduced beautifully. And then I could focus on like framing it and getting the depth of the shot right and balancing the colors in the frame. And like I have some photos that I still enjoy looking at. Like I think they're pretty good. Different exposure lengths, stuff like that. It's a very like mechanical type of creativity, but also very visual.
But so do you want to keep doing like things like with filming stuff like that, but you want it to be like AI to help speed some different processes over, or
AI is not for me. I'm good. I enjoy. Here's the thing. I decided a while ago as a content creator that I didn't really care about my content being high quality. I feel like I want my content to be high, like human authenticity, which
Sure.
is very hard to edit for, in my opinion. It's hard to be more authentic than you are without editing. Like, what do you edit in order to improve your authenticity? Exactly. You like cut out bathroom breaks? Sort of. Although Agadmator reviewers say that they really like that he doesn't cut out the parts where he like goes to answer the door. They're like, we
Oh,
actually
that's
really
so
like
funny.
that. Yeah. Like part of his day. So so I don't know, maybe you're not even meant to edit out those. There's a when I was thinking about this and like deciding how I wanted to do it all, there's a YouTube channel where a guy just sits in the corner cross-legged for 4-hour long videos smiling. He makes no sound, he moves as little as possible. And there are like 120 videos that he's recorded out of him sitting cross-legged in the corner smiling for 4 hours. And there's like they have quite a lot of views. There's like a cult following of sorts. There's all the
What in
stuff
the world?
online. Like in episode 73, he's like visibly crying while he's doing this. It's so fucked up. It's like a psychological thriller almost. But he's just sitting there smiling in the corner.
It's like some weird like Yoko Ono like experiment art type of thing.
Mm-hmm. So like you don't have to, you know, play to the algorithm and short form content and be engaging as possible to get people excited about watching you and enjoying you. And I just like went for a different path. And AI does not fit in
No.
that path.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Not
That's
at all.
interesting because like the type of content that I enjoy typically, like I the only time I ever really am on Twitch actually is like when I'm like making levels and stuff. I just have something on the other monitor, but like very rarely am I like sitting down and turning on Twitch and like, all right, I'm gonna put all my attention on this thing. I very much like if I'm gonna like watch someone play a Kaizo Mario ROM hack, I'm not gonna go to Twitch because I don't really care to watch them die, 100 times in an hour to beat the level. I prefer the like edited down version where like a smart editor will put in all of the attempts where like each time they get further and further, or like put in bits where they have something interesting to say and stuff like that.
Yes, I watch Trackmania like that sometimes, although I also enjoy watching live streams every now and then too. Is Kaizo speedrunning on speedrun.com? Can you like scan through the directory and see what the new world records are?
I believe so. Yeah, should be on there, and then I think there's like a special like ROM hack subdivision for Super Mario World.
That is another thing that I do. Like with Celeste speedruns, every now and then I'll just open up speedrun.com and look to see what category got a world record recently and then load it up and watch it. It's a very strange sort of content because you're choosing who you're watching based on their excellence at Celeste. Not their like personality or their skill as a content creator or anything like that. And often like, well, you'll like watch someone like who has clearly mastered their craft and you're like enraptured as they go through like farewell in the new world record time, and they're doing these strategies on screens that you'd never would have thought of in a million years by yourself. And then they're not talking at all during the run because they're super focused and they're not really like there to entertain. They're there to speedrun Celeste. That's their goal. And then they'll get to the end and get the record. And like one time someone just started like swearing about how fucking bullshit the game was and how they were so happy they never had to play this again. And like, it was like, oh no, I thought we were here to have fun. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just watching, do you ever watch those Summoning Salt videos where it's like speedrun world record breakdowns?
Yeah, sometimes.
I was watching the one on Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, and like that game is just all RNG bullshit, and to have the mental fortitude to just like, all right, I hope I get like the 1 in like 50 chance that this guy gives me the right combo, otherwise I lose 8 seconds. So you gotta be crazy to do 1,000 runs of that. Like, I totally get people who are like, fuck this game, I'm done. Like, after they get a world record, I'm gonna go enjoy my life now.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I don't blame them, but I am usually quite surprised. What was your, like, favorite takeaway from 2023? What's been good this year for you?
If we want to keep it on the topic of Kaizo Mario, putting up my second ROM hack, Super Insecure World. That was a really, really fun project to work on. Mainly because like the first one was like Separate Ways was all about like the narrative that I put into it, like different message boxes and stuff like that. It was like kind of like a peek behind the curtain where it's like I'm giving director's commentary. I'm like, oh, in this level, I learned how to insert custom sprites. Isn't it cool that people allow you to do this and stuff like that? And then the second one, Super Insecure World, as the name implies, is very much about like my response to watching people play my first hack and like what people thought of it, and having lots of tongue-in-cheek jokes. Like on one of the levels, it's like, oh, a streamer says one of your levels is like pulling teeth. Maybe I was just targeting the gamer dentist demographic. You don't know that. Stuff like that. And so kind of building like a whole, like taking all the lessons I learned from that first hack and like applying them into this new one, and then seeing like a much more general positive, people liked the first one plenty enough, but people were way more hot on the second one, and that was a really cool experience. So like see actual improvement.
Yeah.
And then it kind of led to right now I'm working with other creators for the first time, other people who came from Mario Maker we all got rallied up, and we're doing a collaboration hack where essentially everyone's just kind of building their own levels, and then occasionally we'll all work on a level together and stuff like that. And that's coming out next year.
Cool. I have heard lovely things about the Kaizo community, like that it is very positive and affirming and friendly and all of this. Is that all true? Say yes.
Yeah. No, honestly, like I was trying to think like of like any sort of like drama or anything. I really can't think of like any big drama other than, well, I won't even go into it, but it was just something like a creator didn't fully credit all of the people he had in his hack, but which they eventually did, fix and all that stuff. But like that was like the spiciest thing I could think of.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like really fascinating that everyone just seems super chill to just help each other. Like I've never really been in a community like that. It's like the first real community I feel like I've been a part of where everyone's just like super chill to like answer any questions you have or help you with any sort of like ISM or anything like that. Like, hey, can you make this, so and so sort of sprite for me? Like, oh yeah, I'll work on it for you, and blah blah blah. Actually, for separate ways, I contacted. There's a guy named Composer who's an actual video game composer, but he does a lot of porting for SMW hacks and stuff. And I contacted him and was like, hey, I had this like random idea to like actually have a port of Journey's Separate Ways to be like the final level song. I was like, do you think you could do this? He's like, oh yeah, 100%. And he helped and got that done. It was a super awesome port.
Yeah, that's really cool. It sounds like a community full of people who want to be there.
Yeah,
which is really nice. One of the themes of this week has been people talking about how important it has been for them to avoid burnout and make sure that they actually enjoy what they're doing and stuff like that. It sounds like you have found a place where people enjoy what they're doing.
Yeah. There's like you get a little bit into like sometimes when you play too much Kaizo, I've seen in some streamers where like you're just getting your ass handed to you. You hit one too many like invisible coin blocks that someone's trolling you with, and like you can like actually see someone be like, all right, I gotta take a break from this stuff. Like this is mentally draining and stuff like that. But for the most part, yeah, everyone's pretty chill. There's you can get into a little bit of weirdness because people have different, level design philosophies, and if, you're streaming someone else's hack that they, poured hundreds of hours into and saying some not so nice things about, the level or whatever, like a lot of the times most people are pretty good at like couching that in like constructive criticism or something like that, or, I like this hack as a whole, but this level, blah, blah, blah. Like at the end of the day, you put something out there, it's ultimately, the community is allowed to, have whatever opinion they want on it, whoever plays it and stuff like that. So sometimes people are a little harsh, but for the most part, you kind of have to take the good with the bad.
I forgot about troll levels. I have seen highlights from troll levels. That's the sort of thing that goes viral, I feel like.
Yeah,
where.
That's one of my favorite parts about SMW Kaizo, like because you can really do whatever you want in it, you can really fuck over some people in funny ways. Which that was one of the things I learned in Separate Ways is like if you're not a well-known person and you troll them, they're gonna have a lot less like they're not gonna laugh it off as easily. And so, and for my second one, I was like, all right, all of the trolls I'm gonna have are just gonna be like fake out trolls, like. Something like it seems like you're gonna die, but you don't actually die. So you still get a reaction, but you don't get like the resulting like depression that comes afterwards from having to redo the whole section. But trolls are the best part of watching other people play your hack, man. Seeing people freak out is like the funniest shit.
Has it made you do stuff with creating in any other way in video gaming? Like, have you thought about making your own game, or I don't know, modding something else, I guess?
Yeah, I've done I think the only other gaming thing I've modded was I did some Beat Saber songs. They're kind of ass. But that was like a fun little thing. But I'm looking forward. I might go back to college for a year or so to get some like baseline programming knowledge.
Okay.
And then kind of dive into Unity and see if I can make a 2D platformer or something like that. Depending on how that goes. Yeah, because I got just over the years, I was like, man, this is like the thing that I actually enjoy doing. Like my actual job is like microbiology, which like it's fine, but it's not like, you know, every once in a while someone comes by and works in the lab and they're like super invested and like, oh wow, what's this culture? Oh wow, we should really figure out. I'm like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. And then I leave work and I don't ever think about it again. But like with, you know, making games and stuff, it's like, oh man, this is like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
I could do this a lot. So we'll see.
That'll be exciting. What sort of game do you imagine yourself making?
Probably just like, it sounds basic, but probably start out with a 2D platformer. Just because like I'm just trying to imagine like all the different things I could do in a 2D platformer, and like I already have so much knowledge, like game design knowledge around that it would probably be the easiest thing to make first. Mm-hmm. As for like what to do after that, the things that like have inspired me the most that I've played have been stuff all centered around discovery and exploration. So something like Outer Wilds and Tunic.
Oh.
I know
Yes, please make me another Outer Wilds.
Yeah, that'd be like the dream. But yeah, stuff like that I've been playing recently. Just like there's something super special about like a game world that trusts that you can figure out how it works and where to go and why things are happening, and you have like player agency into like interesting stories that aren't, you know, cutscenes and stuff. Like I always think about how like when I went to Brittle Hollow for one of the first few trips, and I like, you know, like everyone, I fell into the black hole. Like on like a second trip there, I noticed like, oh shit, I'm about to fall into the black hole, but I was able to like jetpack and like slingshot my way around the black hole due to the gravity and like make it back out into the ruins or whatever. And I'm just like, that is like such a mind-blowingly cool moment that like, I don't know, very few people will probably get to experience, but like only happened to me essentially because of the game's mechanics and like how it, you know, everything kind of works together. And I don't know.
Sure. Immersive storytelling and experience having through mechanical worlds or something.
Yeah, like I enjoy the occasional story game, but like it's always way more impactful when the story is only like your story, like it's unique to you. The game gave you interesting obstacles and you solved them in interesting ways. Mm-hmm. That's part of the reason why, like, you know, roguelike, like Slay the Spire and other deck building games are super fascinating, because it's, you know, it's lots of decision making, right? Like it's fun to make decisions that have interesting consequences and have, you know, impacts down the line.
Yeah, my favorite thing in Slay the Spire has always been transforming into a card that I don't usually use, and then all of a sudden I'm in a world that I'm not familiar with and trying to work out what I'm meant to do here. How did you get into Slay the Spire?
Oh god, I don't know who recommended it. Yeah, I used to listen to a lot of gaming podcasts, and I'm sure some of them suggested it, and then I stumbled upon, I don't even know how I stumbled upon your thing. Maybe it was a Reddit post or something like that, but I found you pretty early on. You still had like less than 500 viewers at that point. Mm-hmm. And like that, like you've kind of ruined a lot of games for me at this point now, because you've like unlocked Pandora's box into like how to understand and think about games, so that now so many games that like other people love, it sounds like egotistical or whatever, but it's like, oh, like this is actually like really basic and easy to figure out. Like
Well, I apologize. My bad.
No, that was like no. It's like the most incredibly useful skill is like how to think critically about games and how to like. Yeah, I don't know. It's so crazy just how. I can't think of any other outlets that teach you how to be smarter about games. There's like walkthroughs and guides to beat bosses and stuff like that. But there's very few that's like, well, here's why Claw's bad in this situation. It's like, oh shit, I didn't think about that.
Here's why this is the best ROE of all time. Yeah,
Oh,
I
wow,
try
yeah.
to.
You just won the run.
It's Ascension 12. I try to. I'm not trying to spoil games for people.
Well, like I was thinking about, did you play Cult of the Lamb last year at all?
Yeah, I played for a few hours.
Yeah, like a lot of people love that game. Like, oh man, the mechanics of building up the town and stuff like that. But like, I was pretty easily able to see the like matrix on that. I was like, oh, like actually half this stuff like doesn't even matter, and you just need to like do X, Y, and Z, and like the runs themselves are like very basic. Like, but like it's got a great art style and stuff like that. But I was like, oh, this is not as interesting as other people think. But I don't know.
This is the curse of being tremendously experienced at a certain sort of thing that is intended for, casual enjoyment.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, the intent, developer intent is always important.
Yeah. You're always going to be better at picking it up quickly than, the person that they're building the game for to begin with. I've thought about that increasingly as I've played more and more games like Slay the Spire, because people assume that I'm going to like a game like Slay the Spire because I like Slay the Spire, right? But often it's like having played thousands of hours of Slay the Spire does not do a different game that's like Slay the Spire any favors at all. It like massively warps my experience of learning the game, and it makes it so the game doesn't really feel very new. So a lot of the curiosity that I would have for a game usually, and a lot of the fascination, the discovery process just kind of isn't there. It's like the same sort of thing that you're saying.
Right, yeah. Like did you ever play like Cobalt Core or something?
I really liked the demo of Cobalt Core. Cobalt Core is charming. And
yeah,
so,
I really enjoyed it.
But like being charming is enough to make me interested in playing it, even if I like don't care about it for any other reason at all. And yeah, Cobalt Core seemed pretty sweet. I enjoyed the demo. I haven't picked up the full version, but like at some point I probably will.
Yeah, it's been pretty fun, but like you were saying, is like, oh, I get to a boss and like, oh, he's got a big health bar. It's like, well, clearly I'm going to need, some sort of scaling damage. And, as I get later on, like, I'm going to need scaling, defense and blah, 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 and things like that. So, oh, yeah, a lot of these ideas transfer over.
Yeah, for sure. I am always interested when ideas don't transfer over, which happens every now and then. There are games like this where, like, you never are intended to get to a point where you're playing more than 5 cards a turn, for example. And so your deck is much more about building value. There are games which feel really grindy, like you're constantly dying and getting more statuses and wounds in your deck and stuff like that. I don't know if I've ever found one that's very different that I like really liked, unless you go so far afield that you're talking about Brotato or Monster Train. Or Against the Storm. I don't know if Against the Storm is a Spire-like. It kind of is.
Yeah, Wild Frost is pretty interesting in that. I don't think it necessarily had the depth that I was looking for, but the idea I thought was really fascinating, that like you're managing minions sort of like Monster Train, but like you draw a hand and then you can't draw a new hand until, however many turns later, and then You have to deal with like positioning and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I thought that was really cool.
I enjoyed my like 2 or 3 hours of Wild Frost, and then I stopped playing.
Well, that was like the weird controversy where they got like review bombed for being too hard, and then I like played it and I like beat it on my 3rd run. I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah, people are just the worst part about themselves sometimes. I don't know. It was really rough to see. Slay the Spire has had a bit of that at times as well.
It's crazy when you think about how easy Ascension 0 is.
Yeah, but I don't know. People are people, I guess. You don't even believe that really happened. You don't believe Wild Frost actually got review bombed?
Yeah, I was in those reviews reading them. Those are some real interesting people.
Yeah. Are you a Baldur's Gate 3 player? Did you have that part of your gaming year?
Oh yeah, that was some good shit right there.
You done?
Yeah, I finished my playthrough. Yeah, a couple months ago.
And that's it?
Yeah, there's other games to play, man. I'm making games over here. I'm playing games.
Sweet.
No, I would love to do a second playthrough, but that's like another 70-hour commitment.
Oh wow, you got through it in 70 hours. I have been convinced to do Dark Urge accidentally, I think, today. But I don't know when I'm going to. Seems really hard to find time. I can relate to the having other things to do. In my case, I have more Slay the Spire to play.
Always.
Yeah, literally always.
You tired of it?
At the moment, I am extremely excited by Slay the Spire.
What keeps you going at?
I really like entering things in a spreadsheet and analyzing them. And I know a ton about Slay the Spire, so I have lots and lots and lots of different things that I want to enter into a spreadsheet and analyze. Because with a game like this, the more that you know... Okay, at least a game like this with Slay the Spire's depth. The more that you know, the more there is to find out. And I'm getting to the point where it takes hundreds of hours to feel like I have done a good job of finding something out. So, that's a hefty investment of time.
What's something interesting you found out in recent months?
Gosh. There are so many things. Just one?
I mean, anything.
It like all connects to everything else though.
You see the Matrix?
I made a Spire side chat this morning that'll probably go out in a while on the YouTube about why I don't upgrade Fission very much, which made me think about heuristics that people are using to think about games. Because one of the things that I'm interested in, it's not just about getting better at Slay the Spire myself, it's also about understanding how other people are thinking about Slay the Spire so that I can try to connect with them better, and help them think about the game in the best way for them. I'm not trying to say that my way of thinking about it is better than theirs. I'm just saying, like, in order to give somebody a good answer about, like, which card is the best card for Ironclad or something, you kind of have to understand how they're thinking to begin with so that your answer can make sense to them. And so I realized in talking about the Fission upgrade that a lot of people are thinking about the game in terms of just maximizing output without having great calibration on which output they should maximize. And more and more and more, I'm thinking about the game as 150 turns of Slay the Spire, where a lot of the turns are pretty similar, and you just want to get to a point where you're not taking run-ending damage on them so you can win, kinda. And yes, that is current. This is a very long answer, but that is currently what I'm like kind of fixated on, is like, how do you communicate that to people? What does it even mean exactly? What are the consequences of it? Yeah.
That fission upgrade, because I think you mentioned it in a recent YouTube vid that went up or something. That was one of those where I was like, well, no, you need to, you got your orbs ready and you need to proc them, right? If you just get rid of all of your orbs that you just built up, you should probably upgrade that. Like, you explain it in the sense of like, well, drawing like 6 cards and having 6 mana is probably better, significantly better than like however much, 24 damage that you do to something in like 6 block you get or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But then it is kind of complicated to understand why getting 24 damage and 6 block isn't good. Mm-hmm. Compared to like getting 1 more card drawn when you play Cool-Headed or something like that. I don't know what I upgraded instead, but it was probably something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is an entire thing. I think it's interesting the way that Slay the Spire runs are presented to us affects how we think about Slay the Spire runs. I think if your run history had a list of all of the turns that you played, people would think about the turns in Slay the Spire a lot more. If it had like, turn 62, you were attacked for 32 damage by slavers. Turn 63, you were attacked for 15 damage by slavers, And you could just scan through a list of your turns for the run and maybe see some notes on what actions you took or something like that. Some sort of chess match history type of thing, but for Slay the Spire. I think that would gargantuanly change how most people thought about the game they were playing, which is really interesting for me to think about too. Like, the way that information is displayed to us decides how we synthesize it so heavily.
You think like people would like hyper focus on like, oh, well, in this turn you took 32 damage, like clearly you needed to do X, Y, and Z so that you didn't take 32 damage, rather than like, well, actually you took a card here instead of like taking this card.
Yeah, possibly. Like, instead of talking about like, well, should I take Spot Weakness or Carnage? Which one's better? You'd look at your run history and be like, gee, I drew really badly and took 40 this turn. How do I stop myself from drawing really badly and taking 40? Because that's kind of important. A lot of people, when Spire Logs was a thing, a lot of people would look at the average damage taken in a fight as sort of a heuristic for how good their deck was. And I think that's also kind of a testament to the dearth of information being presented to us about this, because I think if you were looking at a list of the turns that you actually played, you'd notice that like the average damage taken in a fight wasn't that big a deal, and also wasn't telling you anywhere near the full story of like what the structure of the deck was like. Because like, I don't know, there are lots of runs where you'll take lots of average damage in a fight, but you just sustain it or whatever. Or your deck is going to take a decent chunk of average damage, but it's not going to die. It's going to consistently get through the fight, taking 15 or something, and then you just rest with a Regal Pillow. And your deck's good at fighting bosses, so you win the run. And I think, yeah, using measurements which are too far abstracted from what is actually happening makes it really hard to draw sensible conclusions about the game.
So what about the statistics of all this? That really gets you going, right? Does that makes your brainwaves really get going, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way for you to like actually explain that in a way that us normies can understand, or is it just like, how someone, like I was explaining earlier, like how someone can just like paint something, and that's just how your brain works?
like explain how you could think about the statistics, or explain why I care about the statistics?
Yeah, like why it gets you going.
Why do I care about the statistics? I care about statistics primarily because they are used for eval all over the world. And I want people to be more statistically literate so that they can be like, hey, that thing you just said is bullshit. More often. That is the really short and sweet answer to that question.
You're telling me all these people on Twitter with blue check marks aren't using statistics appropriately?
Believe it or not, I don't think they are. Having your turn history tracked in Magic Gathering has been a really big deal for you, being able to go back and review a difficult decision outside the time context of playing the match. Yeah, it's like... There's a huge thing about the thing that we measure becoming the thing that we maximize without a sensible consideration period on whether it should be the thing that we maximize, and I think that that's just kind of always very true with statistics. I always want to play armaments first, whatever.
That's an interesting thing with like 2D platformers and Kaizo specifically is there's like two elements of challenge. And Celeste works the same way, right? When you're first playing through Celeste, is like first thing you think of is, well, how what do I do? You know, okay, I need to get into this bubble, shoot up, then dash right, then go into this other bubble, dash right, you know, blah blah blah. And then there's like, how do I make my finger do that?
Mm-hmm.
And so like that's what makes Kaizo pretty tricky with SMW is like you're trying to balance going fast and you know, hitting all the obstacles, but also trying to make your finger, the amount of like different inputs you can do. Like one of the main ones is like if you're holding jump, Mario falls slower. Like that doesn't seem that crazy of a mechanic, but when you can do things that's like called a regrab, where like when you bounce on an enemy and you're not holding jump, you just, you know, you bounce real short and fall right next to it. But if you bounce on the enemy, don't hold jump, but then hit jump immediately afterwards, you gain a much longer jump that's still at like a minimum height. And then you have to compare that with like, so you're doing a lot of stuff like that. You're doing stuff with like shell jumps. You're doing different ways that you have to like activate different sprites and things like that. And so you're trying to balance that along with just learning what the hell you're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting watching some streamers, they'll do pause strats where they'll, if they're like getting somewhere new, they'll just pause the game and just so they can look and see what's going on and stuff like that.
Sure.
Kind of interesting. But it also like, some people like to make levels where you do have to try and figure it out and it's more like a puzzle. And some people won't like that, obviously. And I don't know.
It is free, right?
Yeah, as long as you have a are you talking about like playing Mario or pausing?
Playing, like downloading the level doesn't
as long
cost
as
you money.
Yeah, as long as you have a legally obtained copy of Super Mario World ROM, which I won't tell you how to get or do. But yeah. And there's lots of beginner hacks out there. Like I've been saying like how hard it is, but there are lots of beginner stuff out there that people have made that is super chill and fun. And you know, some people will say actually the best way to learn how to get good at Mario is just play base Super Mario World itself. What makes it like... Oh, go ahead.
You go.
What like makes Mario so interesting compared to like something like Celeste is like the ability to like pick up things, which like sounds kind of silly, but like there's so many different ways you can manipulate different things. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier with like different mechanics interacting with other mechanics. You know, if I jump on a Koopa, he jumps out of his shell. I can take that shell and then shoot it back to him. He's going to carry that shell and he'll either kick it back or I can jump on him and grab the shell, do a shell jump off of it, or, you know, different ways you can kill sprites or, you know, all that sort of stuff. Very fascinating. Yeah, item abuse, as it's called. Different ways you can drop items, throw them up, interact with like different walls. So that becomes like the interesting part of designing a level is like how do I communicate that? And so a lot of it is like, well, I want this person to go here, so I'm gonna put death blocks, along this way. So like the only way that they can only go is through here, and it's gonna look like, oh man, I'm making this big jump, or I'm not sure where I need to go, but like, oh, the only way is this way, and stuff like that. Sometimes you have to give into like the indicator gods and put some coin trails and things like that if you're like really married to a setup or something.
Yeah, that's level design. You were doing level design. I'm sure you already knew this, but level design is wild.
I love watching videos. Like that's kind of like where I got a lot of like my start in this, is like watching video essays and stuff like that on that people made about why do Mario levels like work so well. What is Nintendo doing psychologically that makes sense? And then you start to notice how badly other games do it.
One of my favorite videos is about the drop shadow in Mario Mansion. Is that the one? I forgot which one it was, but I think it's like the first time that a game implemented a drop shadow under the character when you're jumping, so that you can see where your character is relative to the three-dimensional space, relative to the ground, while it's in the air.
Oh yeah.
And like, there are so many tiny things that go on like that in a game that, I mean, in Slay the Spire too, it really make or break a game. It's one of the reasons that I keep playing Slay the Spire, is that Slay the Spire does stuff like that better than most games. And when you play a lot of Slay the Spire, you start to notice that the other games are often not doing it as well.
That is true. Yeah, the playability of Slay the Spire is better than almost any game out there, just in terms of like clicking on things and making them work, and things working in the way that you want them to, and it all makes sense.
And you can play it on your phone, and you can play it on your Switch. Yes, I will be a Slay the Spire fan forever and ever and ever until Megacrit releases their next game next year. Fingers crossed. At which point I will forget Slay the Spire and never play it again. No, that seems very unlikely.
Did he give I know you had the dev on recently. I haven't watched that video yet. Did he give any little
Casey
hints?
And Anthony on separately. Anthony said he was hoping that they'd be able to announce the game in 2024. He did not say that it would release in 2024. Absolutely not. Casey said he couldn't talk about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, they made that thing about like switching to Godot, right? Did they actually go through with that? I didn't.
Yeah, they did.
See that. That's crazy. Good for them. That whole fucking debacle.
They went so fucking viral. I think my friend who has gone the most viral is Casey, who doesn't use social media. He kind of uses social media a little bit.
How do you even follow up Slay the Spire? How do you capture lightning in a bottle again? I mean, I guess theoretically they're smart enough to do it.
I don't think that that's the goal. I think they like making games and they want to make another game. I think that, expecting it to be better or worse than Slay the Spire is not really what they would want. You just judge it on the same merits as you judge any other game. Do I like it or not, etc.
Right.
Oh god, that's not a very good name.
Do they do 25 or 35 at this Ascension?
30, but I'm not sure. I guess you can mouse over it. 30. I'm very hungry right now. Tell me what you are excited about for next year. What you think people should take away from chatting with you. And we'll chat about that for a bit, and then I'm going to go get like a lot of food.
Sure. I think people should, if they are interested in something, they should just do it. They should not waste like any time. Not think, oh, should I do this? Should I? What if I'm bad at it? What if people don't like it? People should try stuff out, try new things out. You never know if you're gonna like something, if you're good at something, unless you at least try. And hopefully, if you can find a community for something that you're trying to do, and hopefully they're as lovely as the SMW community, and they can help you out, and you may find your new passion.
Just do it. Nike.
Shit, I guess they took it already. It's scary though, trying new things,
I think it's good to fail. That's one of the things I guess that is a bit unique about me in gaming, is that I really like losing. Because the thing that's guaranteed in a loss is that something at some point forced me to struggle a little bit. Okay, unless I like pressed end turn and died with apparitions in my hand because I was hallucinating or something like that. But like generally, something in that run must have been interesting in some way. And you don't have that guaranteed in a one. Sometimes in a win you just kind of like cruise through and win, and that's kind of it. And then you're done. And what did you get out of your hour and a half or 2 hours? So it's a bit harder when it's like real life than when it's a game
Yeah.
to be excited about struggling and failing, for sure. But I don't think it's anything to be ashamed of, at least.
Yeah, 100%. Especially as I'm getting older now, it's just like realizing just how much time you really do have. Like, I can 100% still do like a career change at this point if I wanted to, and still be completely okay. I mean, obviously depending on your personal circumstances and stuff like that, but there's always time in the world to learn something new, whether it's positive or negative, like from positive or negative experiences. Like, you got time.
Apparently Mega Crit got 100,000 likes.
Wow.
What if I got 100,000 likes in my entire life? Probably there's one person at home who likes me 100,000 times.
Thorgod asked me what my favorite ROM hack is. I'll throw out a recent ROM hack that came out this year called Mycelium by... God, I can't remember his name. That was something where like I had just finished like my ROM hack, and then I watched someone play through this hack, and I was like spellbound by how well designed it was and how smart it was, that it like immediately like forced me to start making again. It was by Schema Tuna. But yeah, that was like, it's like, man, god damn it, like people are so fucking good at this. Now I gotta get back in the ring.
Are you competitive?
Oh, I'm very competitive, but like this is like a friendly competition in a way where it's like,
sure.
oh, God, these guys are so fucking good. I want to create something cool too. Like, I want to be. That's another weird thing, is like how much of it is like, do you want like the appreciation of players and viewers versus how much of it is self gratification and things like that. I think that's always an important thing to keep in mind, is like, you should be doing this to to fulfill whatever internal goals and things you have like that, and relying on if someone likes your hack or whatever is like it's a dark road to go down.
Yeah. Competition, when it inspires you to like create and enjoy yourself, I think is pretty sweet.
There's a lot of competitions in SMW Central. They run lots of different competitions or like level design contests with different parameters and stuff like that. And there's also a lot of there's a thing called ROM hack races where every Saturday night, I think someone has submitted a level that no one has seen, and a bunch of streamers all get on and try and beat the level before anyone else.
It's like Track of the Day in Trackmania.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's super fun to watch.
I love Track of the Day. So they're trying to beat the level. Oh, so
before anyone else.
Like a blind playthrough of a difficult new hack.
Yeah. Usually just a level.
Oh, just one. What other games are there that are like this? Would you compare it to like Guitar Hero at all? Does that comparison make sense to you?
A little bit, yeah. Like there's definitely, like people will say things like sight read, like, you know, if you get through a lot of a level just like playing it, like if you get through a lot of level on your first try or, you know, whatever, that's like, it's like you're sight reading a really tough Guitar Hero song or something. But it is like interesting, like considering what I've talked about, enjoying like game interactions being the most interesting part of games these days, of things interacting with other things and creating emergent stuff. It's like Kaizo is like the complete opposite of that. It's like if you get a shell, you have to use that shell for the exact same purpose. I don't know what that says about me or my brain. I think I just like watching like really cool stuff happen on screen in a platformer.
I have greatly enjoyed trying to work out how I work over the course of my life. Because once upon a time I had some pretty strong ideas, and then I increasingly found out I was wrong. So yeah, I can relate to that very much. I think it's okay to have an idea that you like something and then also like other things. Ooh, legal trouble from Nintendo is asked.
No, as long as you are using a quote-unquote legally, obtained copy of a ROM. They went back. The legal trouble started way back in the day when Nintendo actually lost a lawsuit, I think, to Game Shark or Game Genie. And ever since then, as long as you have a legally obtained copy of the ROM, you know, whether you flash it from the card or whatever, Nintendo can't do anything about it as long as you don't sell it or distribute the ROMs. And so a lot of the times when people like SMW Central, when you're downloading a quote-unquote ROM hack, you're downloading the patch that you then apply to the ROM.
And getting a legally acquired version of the ROM is a real thing? That's not just like code for I downloaded it, but I'm saying...
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, if you have a copy of SMW on SNES and you have the ability to like plug it into like a flash card or whatever on your computer, you can download that ROM.
Okay. That was not clear to me as someone who doesn't...
That's just what people say. You know. That's one of like the most fascinating things is like I could theoretically put one of my ROM hacks onto an actual SNES ROM and put it into a Super Nintendo and play it. It's like feels like magic.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It also makes it extremely hard to make stuff work because I'm still dealing with, you know, however many kilobytes that they allow me to work with, and so if I have too many sprites on screen, it's going to get really angry and lag and stuff like that.
Oh, I didn't consider that. That would make it harder to make it run Doom, I assume.
And also, like with music, like I can't just put in, you know, whatever Celeste song. Someone has to go in and make a version of that port using different samples. Sometimes people use like samples from like Donkey Kong Country or whatever to make interesting things. I don't know how people do the porting process for music. It is wizardry as far as I know.
There's kind of like some stuff that's already available in the like system memory, so it. Yeah, I don't understand either. Yeah.
Yeah, depending on
I'm
like
trying to understand and failing.
well, like some people will like create samples or like sample packs that a certain song will use. So like if I wanted to put in a Super Metroid song, someone will have probably made a pack of like all the different samples that the Super Metroid music uses, and then in the actual text file for whatever song it pulls from that pack saying, okay, we're going to use sample bongo 1, drum 2, and guitar 3, you know, at these different points. It's crazy.
You're not allowed to tell people where to get the ROM on the internet.
Yep.
Okay. Nintendo's so weird with that stuff.
It's annoying.
Do you follow
Almost-
Smash at all?
The most I followed Smash was when that Smash Brothers documentary series came out, and I got really into watching Melee around then.
Sure.
But I haven't followed too much of it now. I only have time for League of Legends esports as my esports thing.
I feel like somehow Nintendo games end up with really cool competitive communities around them, like pretty consistently. I wonder what it is. Maybe it's
Well,
just
for one, most people grew up with them.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. Like there's such a huge number of people who like passionately have been playing them since they were kids.
And it's also like unintentionally they generally make weird games or games that push in a different direction than most other mainstream games. It's like their fighting game is something that is a more of a platform fighter instead of just being like a rigid 2D thing, and instead of having to do a quarter circle punch, you just hit right and B or whatever. Like they always find like interesting avenues, different ways for play. Who the fuck is making a Pikmin style game right now, you know?
They made that XCOM game too, Mario v Rabbids or whatever. They do make strange games.
I think it was made by Ubisoft, but yeah.
It was with their IP and stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder about how like the generation that's growing up right now with like their games being like Spider-Man and like God of War and Uncharted and shit like that, like how much different that is compared to like, you know, Super Nintendo and Genesis and all that stuff.
There are kids. There are kids who will sit down to play a game, and they will research how to beat the game before they start playing it. And then, like, they'll watch the YouTube tutorial for it or whatever. And then their experience of playing the game is just like pressing the buttons that the YouTuber pressed. This is me being an old man yelling at clouds.
No, I 100% agree. I had a coworker who does this very thing where he's like, "Oh yeah, I looked up, you know, the best way to like farm to like get to this thing, and you know, and the way to beat this boss." I'm like, the whole point of Elden Ring is that like you figure it out yourself, and like it's cool, and there's different ways to do stuff. Like, are you just looking up how to win? What's the point of playing? Can't be wrong, right? It's children.
There were those guidebooks back in the day that came with the game. That's true. That's true. I sometimes run into completionist problems with games where I will look up stuff online because I want to get it all, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's my gaming vice, as it were.
So I almost never complete nowadays.
Like,
In terms of like 100%.
sure. Like, you will finish your playthrough and then you're kind of done.
Like Super Mario Wonder was the last, like maybe like one of the only games this year that I did that.
I haven't 100%ed Slay the Spire yet, so... but that's how I go with it.
How do you 100% Slay the Spire?
Like, get all the achievements.
Uh,
I assume that's what it means. I don't really understand what 100%ing something is, I'm gonna be honest.
Well, it
Once you
depends
get
on the game.
right?
Yeah, it could be that, or just like, do all, if like an open world game, you do like all the side activities or whatever. Shit. I got really frustrated with playing Midnight Suns, Marvel's Midnight Suns. I downloaded that because it was on sale. And I was going on a trip, and I was like, oh, I can play this on my Steam Deck. And I think in the 30 hours that I played it, maybe 20 to 30 minutes of it was like actual, like, in battle, making interesting decisions and stuff. And like everything else was like cutscenes or tutorials or talking. Like, that sort of stuff drives me nuts nowadays in games.
How dare you tell me a story?
Well, I mean, if the story's not good, or if it's not well written.
I want a game to be good at what it does, 100%. And there are games where they're trying to do more than they need to and not pulling it off, and I get that feeling with those. I got that with Cultist Simulator. Cultist Simulator felt like it wanted to be a strategy game and a visual novel, and it could have been either. It also could have been both, but with the execution, it was just a bad version of both. I don't know if you have ever tried Cultist Simulator, but I have not sold it very well, so yeah, sorry about that. Who is
the idea of like
mysteriously recognizable yet familiar voice? Is your voice familiar?
I don't think my voice is familiar unless someone has found my rare podcasts I made a few years back that are absolutely atrocious.
What's your favorite thing that you made before you started doing Kaizo? Like, out of all of these weird things?
I made videos for Heroes of the Storm back in 2016, I think. I still play Heroes of the Storm, by the way. That's the absolute best MOBA ever made. I made some videos for that where we got, like, my friends and I got, like, matched up against Tempo Storm. Is Tempo Storm still a team? I don't even know.
I also don't know. I think they were having budget issues. I don't know if it killed them or not.
But either way, we got matched up against Tempo Storm, who was like one of the best HOTS teams at the time. And we were like getting absolutely stomped, and then we made like this miraculous comeback. And I made a really fun video with it, and I was super proud of that.
I played Heroes of the Storm with a friend, and I don't remember who it was. Huh.
Yeah, it's like, it has like the best, in my opinion, like the best, like, because like I need like people that have like their cozy games or like games to like zone out to, and a lot of the times those kinds of games are like very like not stimulating, but HOTS is like stimulating enough and like fun enough that I can use my brain, but also I don't have to use it too hard because I've played like 1,000 hours of it at this point and know everything going on, and there's no rank or anything. I can just choose whatever hero I want to play and just kind of turn my brain off.
That's the game where they discontinued esports semi-recently, right?
Yeah, a few years back, and they kind of stopped doing development on it, and then randomly a couple months ago they patched it for the first time in like 2 years, and now everyone's like coping in the community.
Understandably.
Which thinking maybe it might be a Steam release because Blizzard's been doing that, but also Blizzard just got bought by Microsoft, so everyone's like, oh my god, they're going to put Master Chief in it.
That'd be cool. They did a good job of kind of boiling it down, the MOBA experience for that game, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really play League much these days as much as I watch it.
What would your tips be for beating the ending with Watcher?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
100%.
Oh god, that's the sad thing about me is like if I ever play Slay the Spire these days, I never play Watcher. I do not know all of the broken shit you can do with them. I don't know any. Like I don't watch. I'm sorry to admit this, George. I don't watch the Watcher videos you post. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Lots of people don't. I'm not offended.
Yeah, don't you just kind of just play all the broken cards? Play Vault. You play the thing that gives you like 8 plated armor for some reason, or it gives you like 1 billion gold every turn or whatever. Shit just always seems like the most broken stuff in the world.
That's roughly what it does, yeah. More or less. Oh.
Can't you go like Beta Omega maximize mode or something like that and you do like triple the amount of damage?
This is a lot like a Yu-Gi-Oh deck, is what it's sounding like to me.
You gotta play Jar of Greed.
I think the way to win as Watcher is to focus on stat swapping and focus on removing cards from your deck so that your stat swapping can be a large component of your deck. That is, I think, the succinct advice I would give. The alter ego for Riot Mordog? I don't think so.
I don't play TFT. I did until they started putting out like a new set every 3 months. It's like, well, I can't learn all this again.
That is the story of so many people.
I did really love the auto battler. Like I really got into was Legion TD2, which is like fairly not well known. I don't know. Have you played it at all?
It did some decent numbers in the community around me. Enough that I installed it and tried it and decided I didn't like it. I don't know if I played it on stream. Did I play it on stream? Anybody remember? I might have played it on stream.
Yeah, I got really into that. That game is super fun.
I just can't do the games where I have to learn a bunch of stuff and the game doesn't set itself up to teach me in a fun way.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
I just feel like the first thing I want to do playing a game like that is get into a spreadsheet, and that's not very much fun. I played it for an hour on October 26th, 2021. There you go. Played it for exactly 1 hour.
Yeah, I really liked it because it was co-op, essentially, like ranked as 2v2, and so my buddy and I would get on and play a couple every night.
Yes, I think that is why I got into it. Somebody was recommending that I might enjoy playing it with them, but I had to nope out. Are there any games in particular that we haven't talked about yet that you're excited about or enjoyed this year or anything like that?
Oh man, trying to think. Like a lot of people talk about this year being like incredible for games, but it was like kind of a year of like disappointing sequels. I feel like a lot of the times sequels play it too safe. So something like the Jedi Survivor, I just recently finished that up. It's a good game, but very safe. Diablo 4, pretty big disappointment. Good game, but like, not what it needs to be in my mind. Stuff like that. I really, there was a wild game back in January called Hi-Fi Rush that...
Yeah?
Did you ever see that?
I still need to play it. It looks incredible.
It's an absolute joy. It's crazy.
Hi-Fi Rush. I'm slowly collecting a list of things that I need to do. I had a friend who, got really into it, like right on release, and was raving about it and everything, and I just never actually got around to trying it.
I want to get back into... I want to start playing Against the Storm now that it finally came out in 1.0. I finally have a reason now to check it out, and everyone seems to say that it's incredible.
That's very good. I recommend you try it. What advice would I give for Against the Storm? What I don't know about Against the Storm is like what it is after you've learned it. All of my playtime basically has been unlocking accounts. So, you know, working my way up to effectively Ascension 20. That game's version of it. I don't know what you do at the top, but it's like a very solid 100 hours of gaming just to get there to begin with. So I've always really enjoyed my time in it. I like unlocked an account, played one run at max difficulty or something, was like, oh yeah, this seems fine, and then uninstalled it, and then 1.0 came out, and I started again, and I'm up to like Prestige 12, I love 20 or something right now. Do you like 4X games, like Civ?
I'm not huge on it, but I do, like, I've, you know, played my fair share of Civ 5 and Civ 6 and stuff like that. I'm not like an uber gamer at those types of things, but they are fun to play. My wife will also, some occasionally we'll play a Civ game together against the computer. That's nice and relaxing.
Multiplayer or like couch co-op?
Multiplayer. She's got her own computer.
I used to play Civ 2 with my uncle, and it was very stressful for me because I would be like, we are going to be at peace, right? And we will team up against the computers. And my uncle would always be really cagey about it. He'd be like, oh, we'll see. We'll see.
He threw you under the bus?
I mean, I was like 10 and he was in his early 20s. He never actually declared war on me or anything. But he always made me wonder if he was going to. That scoundrel of a man. A really good gaming memory, though.
We were just, when I was with all my family this past few days, they were talking about Risk. I don't know if you ever played much of Risk with family members or anything like that. But we would always get like 4 hours into a game or something, and then someone who was like clearly losing would ruin the game for everyone else by like flipping the board over.
Mm-hmm.
That was like a core memory.
That is the appropriate way to end a game of Risk, I think. It is what a game of Risk deserves. We had Risk. We would play it sometimes for a bit, but I don't come from a family of people who play games for like super, super, super long, or from a family of people who play games very quickly. And so would kind of like never finish a game. And my experience with Risk was like, I thought it was like a fun game to chill out with and just kind of vibe and do silly things. And then I played it against my friend whose family like actually really cared about min-maxing strategy games and playing them all the way through to the end every time and stuff like this, and just got demolished by him. Like he had an actual strategy and stuff like that, and I was just like, no, this isn't fun at all. I don't like this. That is my Risk memory.
It's like when you think you play Smash Bros. Against your friends and then you think you're the best, and then you go to college and you're like, oh, actually, I'm terrible.
Yeah, a little bit like that. Similar sort of feeling. There's a pretty substantial online community for Risk. I don't know if you've ever looked at that.
No.
There's a decent computer adaptation of the board game, which has like additional maps and rule sets and stuff like that. There's like a zombies mode where there's an AI faction which will spawn way, way, way more troops than you can keep up with. But if you're clever about punching through in the right places, you can get them under control and hopefully kill your opponents. But they play it with fog of war, so you don't know where your opponents even are, which can be really fun to watch.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot of like trying to guess what your opponents would do, like which choke points they would try to hold against the zombies, and then like you get your first card trade in and get a bunch of troops and just go stomping around the board to try to kill someone and steal their cards.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. We have defeated the Spire. said I was going to get to Ascension 20 or as close to it as I could get this week. Do you think Ascension 13 is close? Thanks for the $30 donation to Free to Love, Croker.
I can donate straight through this this Twitch thing, right?
Oh yeah, it's really good. And they're partnered with PayPal Giving Fund, so there's no extra transactional fees or anything like that.
Ever
Really
since
nice
I
setup.
read your book, I now am charity
Apprehensive.
aware.
Yeah. Yes, good. I am glad. It is not so bad all the time, though. It's something that I am slowly coming around to. I tried doing charity streams a few times and had like massive misfires on the starts. Oh wow. Thank you so much for the $500 donation to support Free to Love.
Yeah, of
Incredibly
course.
generous. Really appreciate having you on.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
I had like one more thought.
Sorry, I just interrupted it.
It's okay. You interrupted it with a $500 donation to the charity we're raising money for. That is completely fine. Oh, it's gone. What was I talking about? The risk community? Ah!
Chat, help!
Oh, diplomacy. Someone in chat mentioned diplomacy. Did you ever play diplomacy?
No.
Do you know diplomacy?
No.
It's a bit similar to Risk, except that people will take turns simultaneously. It's not as much about amassing troops and everything. It's more about you take time, you go talk to people in secret and stuff, and then you come back with your moves planned out, and you all reveal what your moves will be. And so, like, and the fighting is like, well, you don't know what exactly you'll be fighting, I guess, because you don't know what moves the other person will make, but there isn't like a bunch of die rolling and luck. It's more about trying to position and outmaneuver your opponents, and because of the stress on like cooperating on your borders and everything like that, it ends a lot of friendships with the backstabbing involved. It's a game that is entirely about backstabbing and everything. And my parents in college went out to a cabin in the woods to play a game, and one of their friends got left behind. Like, everybody else drove off and just left the friend behind because everyone was so mad at him.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
brutal.
That is another board gaming memory. Well, thank you so much for coming on and chatting about Kaizo. I have learned a lot.
Maybe one day I'll get you started on playing some Kaizo on stream, maybe.
Well, you're not allowed to tell me how to do it, but yeah, we'll see.
Well, yeah, thanks so much for having me on. This was super fun.
Yeah, I hope you have an awesome rest of your year.
Yeah, you too.
Happy New Year's Eve. You celebrating at all? Oh, he's gone. He's gone. That's fine. We were saying goodbye. I just kept talking. Oh. Ooh. My girlfriend sent me a present. I'll go see if it's stream appropriate. I need to stretch my legs and hit the bathroom. Anyway, I will be right back. And then we can play some Silent and chat with Nick.